Hey guys, what's good? Welcome in for tonight's Truth Talks. Real conversation for real people dealing with real life stuff. That's what Truth Talks is all about. We got a doozy tonight. It's going to be brief but powerful. So feel free to share the video out, invite some other folks into tonight's conversation. We're about to get real, about to get raw, about to get real, super honest about what's what, and about not competing with perception. So that's what the conversation is going to be about tonight. So if you know them friends that's always trying to compete with somebody who's not even in a race with them, share this video out because they might need to see it. They might need to listen along with us tonight, even if they don't want to check in. But at any rate, as you guys come in, welcome to the Ultimate Power Team. My name is Marcy Batiste. Welcome to Truth Talks, real people talking about real stuff, dealing with real life. That's what Truth Talks is all about. I'm your Ultimate Power Coach, America's #1 reality-based success and recovery trainer. Reality-based is the key, staying in tune with reality, like being honest with yourself, first and foremost. And so tonight's conversation, I guess I'm just going to dive right in. So I was talking to a friend of mine back home. Was it today? It might have been today or yesterday. I can't even remember. But anyway, the conversation we were having, and her whole conversation was about what other people do and what other people have. And she was like, yeah, so-and-so got the new, I can't remember what kind of handbag it was. I don't know. If it was a Louis Vuitton or something she really can't afford, based on what I know of her and her finances, okay, as a former banker who used to manage her bank account. But that's a whole other side note. My point is, she's coveting what other people have. And she was talking about how they just moved to a bigger house, and she wanted to get this bag, and her husband was looking at some new car. So they've got all this stuff going on, all of which requires finance, and should I say, more to the point, financing, because they don't have the cash. Excuse me, they don't have the cash flow to pay for it. And so I was like, well, I never even heard you say that you wanted to move out into the suburbs. Like, that's never ever been a conversation that we've had. And she was like, no, I never really did, but my husband convinced me that it would be a good idea. And our neighbors, they just bought a house out there, and so we got one like right around the corner from them. And it's a little farther for me to drive, but it'll be okay. I'm sure I'll get used to it. That kind of conversation, right? And I'm just listening, and I'm thinking, I used to manage your finances. I used to manage your money. And I'm not saying this to her at the time, but it came up later on in the conversation where finally enough was enough, and I just had to ask, like, where's all this coming from? Since when did you start competing with what everybody else has? And then she's not the only one, though. So many times we compete with our perceptions of what someone else is, what someone else does, what someone else has, someone else's level of happiness, someone else's relationships, and instead of focusing on our own and what we really want and what really makes us happy and the kind of relationship that we'll find fulfilling. And I have another friend who has a good friend of hers who is constantly in like a dating competition with her. And it's like she pretends that she's happy for the one friend, but she's not really happy for the one friend. And then it kind of comes out in the conversations. Hey, Adrienne, how are you? It comes out in the conversations. You can hear a little bit of like jealousy or a little tinge. And so whatever the first friend has going on or is talking about in her dating relationships, this other girl is always like, oh, well, yeah. And then she'll either discount it, or she's had the exact same issue, or she's had the exact same success. It's never her own individual dating experiences. And so I was joking with this other friend of mine, and I said, well, it sounds to me like she's in a competition with you that you never entered, and she's still losing. And that's what happens. They get in we get in these mythical competitions with people based on our perception of what their life is like. And so when I'm talking about, we want to covet the big house, and we want to well, the Joneses got the big house, and they're moving, or they got a new car, so I need to get a new car. But you don't know what's going on behind their closed doors. You don't know that the Joneses are half a paycheck away from foreclosure and getting the cars repossessed. And the only thing, they're borrowing money from their parents, and they're leveraged to the max. You don't know all of those things. You just see the material things and think, that's the life I want. But if you knew really truly behind the curtain, and you peel back the onion and you found out what was inside, and you realize it's a lot of pain, it's a lot of frustration, they're stressed the hell out because they don't know that they're trying to keep up with their image and the perception everyone has of them. So that's stressful on them, but that's the life that you want. But and that's my point. You're competing for something you don't even know what it takes and what footsteps they're walking in. But yet you're deciding, oh, I want to have these things because that's what this other person has. We do the same thing with relationships. Oh, so-and-so, they just have the best relationship, and they just have the best marriage, and oh my gosh, she's so lucky because he proposed. But you don't know what's going on behind the curtain. You don't know what goes on behind those closed doors. And I can testify to you, not as somebody who competes with other people for what they have, but for somebody who can make and has the capacity to make a relationship look amazing. Absolutely perfect. I did it my whole marriage. Nobody knew that I was completely miserable. They didn't even read through the fact that I had gained, and it was almost 400 pounds, that there might be something going on behind closed doors. My husband wasn't abusive. He was just detached. And I was miserable. I was unhappy. I had wanted a divorce for probably 10 years before I asked for one. So, but I made it look good. And I've always been able to successfully do that with relationships. So people would maybe want what I had. The relationship that I had that ended in domestic violence. On the surface, we looked like the perfect couple. Everybody was like, oh, they just knew we were headed for marriage. Just knew we were headed for marriage. Boy, behind closed doors, we were never going to get married. He was already married. Now, am I proud about that? Nope, but that's the facts. So I'm not sugarcoating it. I'm not trying to make it out to be something I'm not. My point in sharing that with you all is to say that everything that looks good ain't necessarily good on the inside. Everything that you think you want, you may not want once you had it. You may not want that. You know, you got the one friend who looks like he's holding it all together. He's holding it down. He's got the hot wife and the good job and the fancy car and all this kind of stuff. And meanwhile, she creeping. Is that the life you want? Because see, we have the same thing with celebrities. Let's take Oprah for example. Well, there's many of us who would like to have the celebrity of Oprah and the money of Oprah and the fame of Oprah and the access and the influence that Oprah has, right? You want to get sued 100,000 times a day by different people, constantly having lawsuits, constantly being berated, constantly being in the public eye, constantly not being able to live your life. Hey, Sandra, I don't think so. And so when you start thinking in those terms, that you have to be careful what it is that you're looking for and what it is that you're asking for and who you're using as your guide. Because what really is important is for you to get down and get clear about what's really important to you, what moves you, what soothes you, What makes your spirit happy? And most times it's not the things that we think that they are. It's most of the times it's not the things that we're out there chasing. Most of the time it's not the people that we think are going to make us happy that would make us happy. A lot of times those people that we see on the surface and think, "Ooh, yeah, I want to try that. Oh yeah, I want to be in a relationship with that person. Oh yeah, I want to, go buy that new car." And then you're stressed out because you got these $700-800 car payments. Why is your car payment as much as your mortgage? Not my business, but I'm just saying. And now you're in a relationship with somebody who treats you like crap, but it looks good on the surface and he takes you to nice restaurants. Hey, and maybe for some people that's what does it for you. But you better be real honest and real clear about what's really doing it for you and not making it up. Because you can make it look good, you can paint a pretty picture on the surface, but behind closed doors, when the lights go out and it's just you, your conscious, and your thoughts, are you still happy? Are you still happy? Are you still happy competing with perceptions? Are you still happy chasing the Joneses? Are you still happy looking for Tyrone? Are you still happy waiting on Susie? Are you still happy? You look at these beautiful models, clothing modeling contracts, traveling the world with massive eating disorders, miserable, berated because they gain a third of an ounce, miserable. But that's what we're competing against. How about you figure out what makes you happy? How about you figure out what moves you, what soothes you, what comforts you, what inspires you, what motivates you, what makes you smile? And do more of those things. And find out who the people are that support those things in your life. And surround yourself with more of those people. How about you do that? How about you compete for your happiness? How about you compete for your own life fulfillment? Not about what somebody else thinks you have, not about what somebody else thinks about who you're with, but what about you think about what you have, and what about you think who you're with? What about the man or the woman in the mirror? How about we check in with them and find out what they really want? That's my question. Stop competing with perception, because everything that looks good ain't good for you. That much you know to be true. So y'all have an amazing rest of your night, and we'll talk tomorrow for tomorrow's Truth Talks. Have a good night, guys. Thanks for being part of the Ultimate Power Team, and as always, living life on Mars with me. I'll talk to y'all later.